Lawmakers, pundits, experts, and cronies have been screaming now for years about the crumbling American infrastructure and how people will get killed if no one does anything about it. Tuesday night near Philadelphia, 6 more statistics added to the list. More yelling, screaming, gnashing of teeth, and a government that doesn't seem to give a damn. The political animal for this day features psychology expert, author of What Women Really Want, and a member of the Politichicks, Dr. Gina Loudon, and the senior political contributor from Forbes and co-host of The Daily Wrap, seen right here on Newsmax, weeknights at 7 p.m. Eastern, Rick Ungar. Gina, Rick, thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Rick, I'm going to start with you because we start on the East Coast. An Amtrak derailed in North Carolina in March, in Massachusetts in June, in South Carolina the year before that, now this one in Philadelphia. This entire issue about infrastructure has been bouncing among lawmakers now for years. No one seems to be willing to do anything. Don't we have to consider that this is a bipartisan disaster by everybody concerned in Washington because more people are still dying?
You would think it would be the most obvious thing that the United States Congress could work out for themselves. You know, unfortunately, the only way Congress ever acts is when they react. So we'll probably see some reaction to this latest disaster, one that's going to strike close to home, by the way, because many people in this business, including the politicians, including myself, we ride that rail on a pretty frequent basis, and it could have been any of us, and we're all still waiting to see if we have any friends who may have been involved last night. The infrastructure situation is such short-term thinking. There's, you know, people talk about all the things going on out there that are devastating to the future of America. Well, the one thing we can be absolutely certain of, if we do not begin to catch up with other nations on infrastructure, there's not even a conversation. Our economy will fall to a second or third class status because it has to if you don't have the infrastructure to drive it. It's gotten absolutely absurd. And as you point out, people are dying.
Gina, isn't it fair to say that, yes, there are other issues here? Immigration is certainly one. Obamacare is another one. But as Rick points out, if the infrastructure is not working, we can't protect ourselves. We can't move from place to place. This is an absolute disaster that certainly both sides have to take responsibility for and have got to make a priority.
It is, but it needs to not be painted in terms that that are a little bit fantasy-esque. This reminds me a little bit of the water problem we have in California. We don't have a water problem in California. What we have is a problem actually diverting the water where it needs to go. So same thing here. You know, the politicians want to spend a lot of money on things that make people feel good, like bullet trains and environmental things that really don't have any bearing on our infrastructure when we need to be getting down to brass tacks and spending those dollars that are the hard-earned dollars of taxpayers on infrastructure that actually works and doesn't just make people feel good about the environment.
Let's get down to some brass tacks with the Democrats. Oh, I'm sorry, Rick, go ahead.
I was just going to say, in the city where I live, New York City, we have over 65 bridges that were built to be 40 years in duration that are now 100 years old. I don't think there's fantasy land involved in something like that.
No, not at all, Rick. I completely agree with you.
Right.
I'm talking about where the dollars are spent instead.
But wait, bullet trains are not fantasy. If you look at what our competitors are up to, look at what's happening in Japan, look at what's happening in China. This isn't fantasy. This is how their system is operating, and it plays a decided role in giving them an economic edge in terms of people wanting to do business in different places. These trains that we have here in America are old.
But I'm saying that they're not cost effective. Union wages are another problem. I mean, there are a lot of problems happening here that we need to take a really honest look at instead of just saying, well, let's build this amazing pie in the sky and not take care of the mechanics of what really needs to happen in simple terms.
I would completely agree. You need a serious approach to it. You do have to look at it in a serious way, and you have to look at it on the long term. Agree with you 100%, but we're not looking at it. And Congress would rather, and on both sides, by the way, they would rather use these issues as election hooks, and they will not get down to it. And you know what else they won't do? We all worry about the deficit.
Very quickly, Rick.
We all know that it's real. We all know that it's a problem, but you know what? We will never again have an opportunity to borrow money at this low of an interest rate to invest in our infrastructure and see it pay off 10, 20-fold. We won't. We aren't doing it. We aren't doing it because Republicans won't let us.
Rick, how about using the money we have and not putting us in further debt?
That shows a complete misunderstanding of the economics of business. Sometimes it's good to borrow money, believe it or not. I know it doesn't sound good. Politicians don't like it. Republicans have an allergic attack, but you know what? Sometimes it actually makes sense. See, we're all agreeing with you is don't borrow money for things
real quick because you're talking about borrowing money. How in debt are we now?
Right.
How much you want to drive us even further?
No, that's my point. Sometimes you borrow money to make investments that will end up making you money. And I agree. I acknowledged it at the outset by saying we've got a real deficit problem. I wouldn't deny that for 10 seconds. But you have to look at this and say, how can we afford not to? How can we afford not to make these investments? Yes, if we don't do it, we won't increase the deficit today, but we will destroy what we are as a country not that far down the road.
Well, how about this? I've only got a couple of seconds left because we've
go.
really gone overboard on this, but it's actually a great conversation. But let me lead to Gina on this with about 40 seconds left. Hey, Gina, we're talking about borrowing money here. What about all the tremendous, ridiculous, insidious amount of government waste we have in this country? If you stop the government waste in Washington, if you actually spent the money properly, guess what? Those tracks would be fixed. The border would be fine. You'd have good health care. Let's just start there.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And I have to tell you another thing. I hope that there are no college students listening right now that think it's a good idea to go borrow money to invest. That is nonsensical to me, Rick, as much as I adore you.
Really?
It has to be that we spend the money we have responsibly. It is never responsible to go borrow money to make an investment because
so you don't think businesses should borrow?
Okay, hold on a sec. Time. I got to call time on it because we are all out of time. My goodness. We have opened up an entirely new area here that we have to cover the next time, but what a great conversation. Thank you both, Dr. Gina Loudon and Rick Ungar. Next time, I'm just going to let you guys go, and that's all it'll take. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, stay with us because the fastest 60 minutes in news rocks on.